moving there. So good afternoon. My name is Ryan Togren. I am the membership director for NAGAP, the leader in graduate enrollment management. I want to thank folks for joining us this afternoon, admitting a few more people in here. I'm joined by members of the NAGAP membership committee today in what is the first kind of go around in a new, pretty regular presentation we're hoping to give called NAGAP 101. Our goal with this session is to give both a procedural overview in some ways of what NAGAP has to offer and why, as well as a more networking, open, informal component where individuals can learn a little bit from each other about why they are or why they're thinking about joining NAGAP, staying involved in NAGAP, finding new ways to get involved in NAGAP, and you know, this is kind of a form in other ways too of sharing the ideas you might have about new pathways to get involved with NAGAP too. So while this session is primarily designed for new or interested members, if there's anyone on our webinar or our presentation today who's been a NAGAP member in the past, is one right now, and is thinking of sharing some ways they want to see the organization evolve with their interests, this is the chance and place to do that too. So my name is Ryan Togren. I am the Director of Membership on the NAGAP board, and I'm also the Assistant Dean for Enrollment Management at the University of Buffalo's Graduate School of Education. I'm going to stop talking for a second and pass on over and let our other presenters on the committee introduce themselves as well.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Nevels. I am with the University of New Hampshire. I work as the Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions for our business school. I've been in graduate enrollment management for about 8 years. I used to work at the University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine. I am on the membership committee with Ryan. He's a great leader. And it's just really exciting to talk with new and potential members, because there are a lot of ways in which this group, this professional organization, has helped me throughout the years. So I'm really excited to tell a lot of you about those, and feel free to ask us any questions as we go throughout the presentation.
Thanks, Annie. Jennifer, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Ryan and Annie. My name is Jennifer Jones. I'm the Assistant Director of the Online Master's Program at the University at Virginia Tech, and I have been with NAGAP for going on 3 years now, and so I just feel like I've really started to kind of get my feet wet and started really getting more active, and have very much enjoyed getting that opportunity to do that. So if you're here learning more, then this is the great first step to take, and hopefully we can help you with some of those choices that you can make and some options that you have for NAGAP, and maybe for your chapters that you have if they're available too.
That's great. Thanks, both of you. And along the way, as we go through things, feel free to jump in to talk about how some of the items that we're discussing maybe you've used and interacted with as well. So I want to give a shout out to Deanna Hughes, who's not joining us today, but is another member of our membership committee who put this presentation together. And with your feedback, this presentation will evolve, and we'll figure out some new, unique ways to use this information for folks as well. So I want to jump right in and start talking with a bit about the organizational history here. NAGAP has evolved. I think the biggest piece that I've noticed, I've been involved with NAGAP for about 6 or 7 years now, is the incredibly fast move to building an online community, even before COVID, in ways that we can make sure that individuals can engage, learn, and be a part of a community, both in person as well as online as an organization. But also the part of the organizational history that I've seen happen more recently is the shift from an organization that thinks about admissions to thinking about enrollment management, right? That's having resources that are key practical best practice items within GEM. So that's admissions, recruitment, operations, scholarshiping and finance, financial aid, student services, orientation, graduation, and alumni relations. I've seen and talked with and interacted with individuals, watched presentations, gone to conference sessions, talked, through ideas of people through this group that have gone far beyond just getting students to be interested in my programs, but have covered pretty much every spot in the student life cycle now for a graduate or a professional student. So I think, to me, while there are some bullets here that talk about the history, the key piece here is the new scholarship that's come out of NAGAP over the past few years thinking about the full enrollment life cycle and the different ways that graduate enrollment management professionals really have had to take on new and different roles and add into their jobs as admissions professionals and beyond, and how the organization has evolved with those changes pretty quickly over the past few years as well. I will say, as a kind of housekeeping note, if folks have questions they want to ask about specifically, if you put them in the chat, that's great. If not, we'll have plenty of time at the end to talk about too. And that last bullet of advocacy, both for our members and for our students. One of the things I see a lot of times with other organizations, third-party vendors, et cetera, in relation to NAGAP is we're all uniquely aware of some of the issues that are not one size fits all across graduate and professional schools. I think when I first met Jennifer, Jennifer, you work with a fully online program, is that correct? So some of the experiences you have are really unique to you, but the NAGAP becomes a place where there are likely other folks in a similar boat to you. And then to Annie mentioning she used to work for a school that's only for osteopathic medicine. I already know I have colleagues I've met through NAGAP that work in similar schools across the country, and this might be the unique place that intersects the curricular and academic uniqueness of that with some of our professional responsibilities as well. So in terms of history, I think I'll summarize by saying NAGAP has kind of met the challenge of being the central hub in place for all those different enrollment categories to fall in one, and for you to find your people, for lack of a better term, throughout the way. I'll pass it over, or actually I'm going to take over to here and start talking about membership benefits a little bit. There's a screenshot right here of the exchange. This is a new platform that is available to NAGAP members to both share new ideas and discussions, learn about announcements, hear about upcoming events, not this one, but any webinars that are unique, webinars, podcasts, research reports that are unique to members themselves. But the thing I've seen that's been pretty incredible so quickly is the membership engagement using this online message board platform to get quick answers, go through, attack long problems, think through components like that, and help people kind of take care of things on the fly from other professionals as well. Right before this webinar started, I actually hopped on really quick because I like to try to read once or twice a week what's happening. And organically, other members of NAGAP have already started offering and holding these kind of like flash sessions, flash webinars within each other, building organic communities about issues that are going on. Staff turnover, staff engagement, needs assessment surveys. It's pretty incredible to see how these mini communities can start being built once we've put in place this unique component of NAGAP called the exchange. I don't know if anyone else wants to share some of their exchange experiences as well, if they're positive, negative, neutral, etc.
I know I can say, like I said, I've been with NAGAP for a few years now, and at the beginning, it's one of those things where it's almost like there's too much information. There's so much available out there, and when I talk about the benefits, one of my key things that I talk about is access. You're getting access to so much. You're getting access to people, information, all of these kinds of things all at once. And so the exchange is a great place for you to go when you're like having an issue or have a question or need to reach out to somebody and maybe aren't sure. You can kind of just put it out there, and inevitably, like Ryan said previously, there's somebody that's dealing with that same issue or having this, having the same problem. And you can get a lot of, you can get a lot of feedback, and you can get a lot of interaction, and it happens, I won't say instantly, but it happens very quickly, which is fabulous.
Yeah, go ahead, Annie. I don't know if you're going to jump in.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I know for a lot of us, it can feel really isolating in our roles because there might not be someone else who does what we do in our offices. So you're trying to connect with people who might not really understand the way it is. And so I think on the exchange, you get to have that connection with other people who really know what you're going through, who face some of the issues you're going through. We all are going through it together in ways that maybe some other people in your office or on your campuses might not be. So that's what I see as really the biggest benefit.
Annie, I think you bring up a really good point too, with respect to there may be people on this call, people who might, listen to this recording later, who are in a sense one-stop shops of graduate enrollment at their institution as well. So there's a chance that they don't even have those folks on their campus, and they need a resource like this to make that happen too. So the exchange suddenly becomes your pseudo, office mates that you may not have in those experiences as well. So I'm glad you brought that up. And the low level of engagement needed, there's no barriers to entry once you're a NAGAP member to getting those questions answered, and the search functionality and trying to find some things that you're looking for is pretty easy too. I know that there was a pretty good discussion recently about the Duolingo English test, because there were some institutions that were trying to add that in as a fully online option, for international students. And you could find four different conversations that happened over the past year about using it, from implementing it to minimum scores to how you got faculty to buy into it as well. So to see the evolution of those conversations so quickly kind of proves both of your points as well. The next piece is really the career center part as well, or the fact that NAGAP has become sort of a catch-all or a hub for membership benefits, in terms of finding your next position, making sense of positions, or even if you're ideally, posting a job, looking at similar positions to see what the market is asking for with respect to job outcomes or job descriptions as well. A few years back, I know I personally went to the NAGAP Career Center website just to make sure that I was in line with what was expected for an entry-level admissions, a graduate enrollment position I was looking for. So it was really helpful as well. So Jennifer, I'll pass that over to you to give talk a little more about some more benefits.
Thank you, Ryan. And I think you kind of said it really well when you talk about it's a one-stop shop, and it really is. And I kind of think of NAGAP as being similar to that too. A one-stop shop, or getting access and connecting with what you need. And I think that's one of the biggest things that membership really gives you. Excuse me. Specifically, some things that you have access to once you become a member. On the exchange or on the NAGAP website are several different options that you have. The first and probably the most important one is the NAGAP News, which is a weekly email that comes out with kind of all the information that you need. It will have all the information on some of the other things that I'll talk about, but it kind of keeps you up to date on everything that's coming up, and is very up with the times of what's going on. So Ryan mentioned the conversations that we had going in a lot of different aspects of Duolingo and things like that, where we have an opportunity to be able to really connect with and discuss some things that are happening right there in the moment. And NAGAP News is kind of where you're going to find all of that information, which of course is going to link you to the exchange, which is where you get a lot of the access for some of the other things too. So the NAGAP News is going to be your weekly email. We also have access to webinars, which are going to vary in length and topic depending on what's going on. We've had several leadership topics that we've had in the recent past. We've had information on, or webinars on, supporting student success. We talked about holistic admissions because that's been kind of a hot topic. We even had one very recently on the lean method for using solutions or finding solutions to issues that you might be having. So there's tons of different options and opportunities for you in that respect to be able to gain access to information and topics that are going on and that are kind of hot topics. The next thing that you're going to get access to is the NAGAP report, which is the podcast that's put out. It's got a lot of information in it too, and tends to be on topics. The one that Ryan was talking about, which is the Duolingo, that was one of the podcasts that was out. There was also a podcast on some technology items. Handshake, I know, is a big thing at my university now, and a lot of people are starting to implement that. So we had a podcast on that. And all of the webinars, the podcasts, all of this information that we're talking about is all accessible to you through the exchange. And so it's right there at the click of a button if you need anything. And like Ryan said, you can use the search function. You can go in and look for ideas. You can just kind of browse and fall down that rabbit hole for however long you feel like is good. So you have lots of options there. The next thing that we have access to as members is the Perspectives magazine. It comes out 3 times each year and is available electronically. I almost am just the tiniest bit sad that it's not available, because I really would love to get it mailed to my office to have that paper copy, but it is available electronically. And if you don't have printing issues at your university, maybe you can just print it off if you want that paper copy. But it contains lots of up-to-date information on trends and research in graduate enrollment management. And so it's a really great resource that you can utilize if there's something that you're looking for. As we go through, Ryan mentioned that NAGAP does a lot of research on its own and partners with folks to do research. We have access to all of that information. NAGAP does flash feedback surveys that they give all the members access to on all different kinds of topics. We have access to any research that NAGAP's done previously, and we also have opportunities to inform upcoming research with the flash feedback surveys and some of those other things where NAGAP actually asks for member input. So it's a really great way to find access to research that you may or may not have at your university level, and that you may or may not have at the graduate enrollment management level, because that's where I really struggle. We have lots of information on undergraduate and not as much information that we have access to at the graduate level for me. So there's some different options there for you. The website even has book reviews where folks have reviewed books and put them up there for people to read and look at. So those are definitely options. We have strategic partnerships with some different companies and some different groups that give us access to research. It gives us access to looking at certain things and different items with like Career Eco. We have access to a variety of different online graduate enrollment fairs and things like that. So the partnerships that NAGAP has really gives members, I think, opportunities to branch out on their own that they may not have access to at the university level. Ryan, do you mind hitting the next slide, the chapters slide?
Oh yeah, I will. I want to jump in one quick thing, as you mentioned, that was really interesting there. So in fact, right now NAGAP is partnering with EAB to do those flash surveys. On Thursday of last week, I got the email that shared the survey results from that. It was about staff perceptions of workload and stress levels with respect to COVID. And to no one's surprise, everyone is more stressed out, right? That is not shocked. However, I now have proof from hundreds of members who've given that info for public and private schools for me to say, hey, to my dean or to other faculty, we might think we're, how are other people might seem like they have it all put together, but really we're all equally kind of stressed out here. And here's a quick snapshot of what that looks like for my professional organization. And not that we need those that data right now, but it's a helpful companion to anecdotes that we're sharing with folks too. And the last thing I want to mention too, in terms of the GEMCAT tool, I used that salary triangulation tool 3 years ago to help a member of my team, not on my team specifically, but in a related area at my university, get a submission for a promotion and for a salary increase, because I was able to drill down and to say, here are the tasks you're working on in your region. You're getting paid less than I think you might realize you are. And I was able to help them advocate for that. And that was a tool that was available because of NAGAP. This person wasn't a member, but I kind of guided them through the process using my membership. So it's amazing some of the things you realize you can do with what NAGAP has to offer there. So jumping in, I'll let you keep going then. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you. So we do have several opportunities for you to become associated with a chapter of NAGAP if you're in one of the areas that we have listed. And then you can also click on the link and go to the website that gives more information on each of the chapters. But we do have chapters in most of the physical areas of the United States. We even have a Canadian chapter. And we have a couple of chapters that are based more on your like a special interest. So you can see right there, there's a Jesuit universities one, and then a biomedical research program that's specific that you can join. This is a really great way for you to get involved in kind of a smaller and a more intimate setting with folks that are physically close to you or that may share your area of interest. So I highly recommend that if you are in one of these areas that has a chapter, that you reach out to them and let them know, and say that you want to get interested, say that you want to get more involved and things like that. And it'll kind of open the door for you to get into a smaller area that might be able to gain access to folks that are closer to you or in your special interest group. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, Annie, were you involved in the New England chapter at all?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention it when I talked about getting involved. We can talk about it a little bit now. It's really great to be a part of these regional groups because I learned a lot of new things, especially coming from working for an osteopathic medical school. I worked a lot with that group, and my group, it was called Cameo. And so I had never had the opportunity to connect with actual graduate admission folks. And so getting to learn from them about what are the regional things that I need to do? What are some of the regional fairs that are really important? So I really like working in that group. I don't know if you work with NAGAP at all, Ryan.
Yeah. I was the president of NAGAP for 2 years, which was helpful. And this past Friday, actually, I helped facilitate for our New York folks specifically a teacher education informal chat. Basically, the long and short of it is we're facing some unique challenges because of GRE requirements for teacher prep programs in New York. This might be different in other states, but because of the chapter that was set up, we were able to round up about 20, I think 19 or 20 people who are all facing some similar standardized test issues and talk through and share some of our concerns, which turns out we all had some similar concerns about what was going on. And it was really helpful to be able to gather some folks together to do that. And that's what the chapters really provide, is that boots on the ground, super hyper local and unique experience to figure out and to use those resources to build up and see how can I get some information that maybe no one else really can understand because of where my geographic region, or in some cases, my program specific one. Now, there may be some folks on this call too who say, well, my state's not included or my interest area is not included. It certainly is not impossible to gather some folks together around a state area or an interest to get to make that involvement happen. I know in past years, social work, engineering, I think some other program areas have used the annual conference or done some unique one-off events around those areas as well. In fact, I'm not going to make him say anything, but I know Bill is on this call too, who is reigniting the NAGAP chapter because they realize the need and the uniqueness of some of the issues of their region, and they're taking a dormant chapter and having it restart again too. So NAGAP is so reflexive and able to meet the needs of people with some kind of guidelines in place to give you the support you need to make those things happen. So we see a chapter list here, but who knows what the future will hold as well. So I'll let you jump in now, Annie, to talk about annual events.
Awesome, thanks, Ryan. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about different events that we do within NAGAP, and you might wonder, when are those? What do they do? What can you get involved with? And I just wanted to go over a couple of those. So the summit, of course, is what you hear a lot about, the annual conference, being able to engage with others, the big conference, go into a lot of your different presentations, connecting with others professionally. And so that's what you hear the most about, but there are some other things that you can get involved with as well. The pre-conference summit, so the pre-summit workshop, it's typically about a half-day intensive. So they talk about a specific issue. So in the past, sometimes they've focused on veterans and military students. Sometimes it's about underrepresented graduate students. And so that's a way for you to engage before the summit in a really specific way. And it's a really intensive type program. And then you have the summer institutes. So that's typically for those of us, some of you might be new to the field or new to NAGAP to interact. And so that's during the summer, and it's focused on current physicians who've been in 3 or less years. And so it's those professionals working with graduates, faculty, and we usually find this really helpful and appropriate for those people who are really newer to the field. Whereas when you look at the Advanced Professional Development Institute, that's typically the Winter Institute, and it's a little bit higher and more advanced topic. So it's for those who have been in the field for about 5 or more years in graduate enrollment management. And so it gives you the opportunity to have discussions, interactions with your colleagues who have been in the field a little bit longer, like you have. Enrollment is really limited for that, but you are able to engage at a much higher level. Anything to add there, Ryan? You're on mute.
I think you covered it. I think you covered it pretty well. I think I've noticed that the evolution of the Summer Institute too. Now there's these building blocks of enrollment management. I think I've seen folks who maybe they were in undergrad admissions for 5-10 years, and they have their first grad position. Like, oh my goodness, this becomes this really great crash course in learning the nuts and bolts if you're taking on something new. So I think that when we say new here, new can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and that's not to say it's limiting by any stretch of the imagination. But it's important to know that it doesn't just mean you're brand new to higher ed, so to speak. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Ryan, sorry, I didn't just want to jump in really quickly. Since we have a new thing that actually I was one of the, it always sounds funny when I say it, I was an inaugural member of the Leadership Academy, which is a new thing that NAGAP implemented in, I believe it was 2019 when I went. Everything kind of blurs together now, I'm not even sure. But the Leadership Academy is a new program that they've been implementing in the last couple of years to give opportunities to people that are interested in leadership options and opportunities and learning more about it. And you go, it's a smaller group, and you get some really great access to the some leadership folks. I got a ton of information. I should unfortunately have had an opportunity to present at the 2020 summit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to because of everything that happened, of course, but it was a really great program that would have culminated in a presentation at the summit the next year that you complete the academy. And it was a really great opportunity for me. And I mean, I think my university, hopefully will gain a lot from it, from me as an employee. So that's another great opportunity that we have that's fairly new. So,
Jennifer, I'm glad you brought that up, because it sounds to me, and I wasn't a part of it, but if you could maybe share for a second too, in terms of like an annual involvement. First, Christy mentioned that in the chat. The next one is planned for fall 2021. Did you feel as if you got a balance of like your own personal professional development as well as, you left with a deliverable for your institution too? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So we were there for several days, and it was actually broken up. You did a small stint in the fall. You did a small stint, and I apologize. I should have refreshed my memory on what we did. But we did some stuff in the fall. Then we came back together and did a large group where we actually went to a conference. We were together for several days. We were to go home and create kind of a program that we were going to implement within our university. So that for me, that was the deliverable. I was creating an entire new concentration within my program. And I was doing all of the requirements for that. And then you were supposed to essentially deliver this, kind of capstone project that you created at the summit. And so it really was great about learning about what you were like as a leader, pros and cons. I learned a lot of things, good, bad, and otherwise. And then really taking that information and being able to apply it to what you were doing right then. And so it was really great and really helpful for me. And I felt like it kind of I felt like it really kind of sealed for me my membership and my inclusion in NAGAP. Not to say that you have to do the Leadership Academy in order to make that happen, but I feel like it really gave me a chance to kind of really figure some things out, both at my university and then for what I wanted to do with graduate enrollment, leadership, and all of these kinds of things. So kind of was a great bundle all rolled into one.
Well, I'm glad we're recording this so that we can just use what you said for future promotion. So that was great. But we'll, Annie, you want to wrap us up in terms of kind of ways to get involved once you become a member, then we'll jump to Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ryan and I touched a little bit on that chapter level involvement, being able to engage with people who are in your region, other professionals, getting involved on that more regional level. You can get leadership positions like Ryan was talking about to kind of gain those leadership skills. And another way you can do that is with presenting at a regional or national conference. Are there topics that all of us feel really well versed on or that we've had a lot of experience with? I know at one of the most recent NAGAP conferences I went to before the coronavirus, there were a lot of great presentations on, new ways that we're engaging with students. And so you're able to see what others are doing. And if there's something that's really working for you, you can create a proposal to present at a regional or national conference. And that's something you can add to your resume. It's something you can bring back to your institution. And there are the national level committees as well. I have to do that plug for ours, the membership committee for NAGAP. Maybe that's something you're really interested in. Like myself, I like recruiting, I like doing that. And so working with this committee to engage other NAGAP members, because I actually believe in the benefits of NAGAP, where maybe you're more interested in the marketing side, or you're more interested in the IT side, whatever it is, there are opportunities for you at the national level. And of course, volunteering for national conference roles, a little bit more presenting, or if you want to be a moderator, things like that. There are ways for you to feel really involved in all the things that we're doing at NAGAP.
That's a great point. And I want to add to that too, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I think that engagement and involvement sometimes too can look just like reading the exchange and being comfortable with getting reports and jumping onto things there too. Not everyone's looking to do everything all the time. And that's one of the nice things about NAGAP is there are passive ways to be involved for those who don't feel as if they want or need to join committees and jump in that way. But you're just happy to be able to get a refresh of information on a pretty consistent basis too. So I want to open it up to questions at this point, and also as well share, of course, the link in the chat here of joining NAGAP, right? So it outlines pretty clearly the ways and time to join. But I want to make clear that if you're not a member right now, it may be best to join at the individual or institutional membership rate and starting in mid-April. And Christy, you can confirm this with me too, that once it opens up for the 21-22 year on or near May 1, late April, that will get you a few extra months of a membership throughout next year as well.
Exactly. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. So for not to say that you can't join right now, but the way the membership year runs, it's basically July 1 through June 30th. But we open it up early to kind of align with a separate conference registration. So you get kind of an extra few months of access starting mid to end of April in terms of joining as a member. But I'm going to stop talking for a minute and open up to see if folks have questions. Throw them in the chat, unmute yourself, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, Ryan, my name's Laura. I am kind of transitioning into a director of admissions position after taking kind of a long and winding path to getting there. I was working as an advisor for current students who then also did a lot of the decentralized admission processing. So I did recruitment and things like that. Then I moved over to the IT side for the last few years. I've been programming our instance of Slate and everything that goes along with all of the review piece. So I feel like I have a lot of experience that's kind of all danced around this whole idea of graduate enrollment management. And now moving into this, it seems like, well, there's a focus at my institution about making sure that that's the direction that we're moving in. So I guess the first question is, do you have resources, or do you have like certain webinars? Because I did pick up an institutional membership. I actually inherited it from the director of admissions who left. Are there webinars that I could go to, like, kind of help me do a crash course or a crib course on what I need to know to kind of enter some of these discussions that I think I'm about to be thrust into?
Sure. So the first thing I'm thinking about, and this is not to promote any, don't spend more money right away, but I know that this year's Pre-Summit Institute at the NAGAP annual conference is 5 steps to follow a graduate and professional recruitment plan, and how to do that, right? That's an upcoming another opportunity. It's Wednesday the 28th from 12 to 3 p.m. Not saying you have the funds, the PD funds to do it, but there's essentially a crash course coming up on how to, a review of the survey results, and then how to develop an annual recruitment plan, which might be an option. And Bill put a great plug in too, that we're in the NAGAP's in the process of releasing basically a graduate enrollment management handbook pretty soon, with respect to all the nuts and bolts you're speaking of, to make sure all those disparate parts kind of come together in one cohesive place. The next piece I might suggest for you, I definitely can look up some previous webinars to send you a link or two. You may take that same question you've asked here, and if you put that over on the exchange, you might get some colleagues who can send you some of the experiences, maybe a resource that they have from being in a similar position, right? So for example, maybe you need something that shows, how you develop a recruitment plan and how to do that, or how you do a drip marketing campaign, or what are the do's and don'ts you've learned from building your Slate instance for the first time. I mean, we could be here for 5 more hours talking about what the first year in that director role looks like, but I don't know if anyone else wants to share ideas or thoughts, so I don't talk the whole time.
I do think that the exchange, I know we keep harping on it, it really does give you what you need, Laura. I think you can post your questions, you can search specifically for what you're looking for, and you can start building those connections. There might be someone, like Ryan said, who has a resource that already exists, so that you're not having to wait until the next webinar or the next conference. The exchange is where you can get those in real time. Bill, I think you unmuted. I don't know if you had something to say.
Yeah, and this is just not necessarily a NAGAP resource, but the Council of Graduate Schools also has a little handbook called the Essential Guide to Graduate Admissions that could be helpful for somebody that's new to the position.
Great. Awesome. I don't know if that answered your question fully, Laura, but there's a few places to start, I think, there. And I'm going to take a look through some of our old webinars to see if one maybe fits the bill for what you're looking for there as well.
No, that definitely gives me a lot of ways to go. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And if any other folks have questions, now might be a good time. Unmute, raise your hand, put it in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. One thing I will say too, well, if I'm waiting on any other folks, Laura, to your original question, and this isn't a surprise, but I think it's good to mention, before we lose sight of it. I always tell folks, I've been in my role for a year, actually myself, about a year in the director or assistant dean level role. It takes a full year to understand the unique ebbs and flows of your institution, that role, the things you don't know that you don't know, before I think you really can then put your own stamp of approval or your own vision into place. And I say that because it helps expectation setting and expectation managing with faculty, with your dean, with campus partners, because there's so many unique case situations that come up that any roadmap you might have might get thrown out pretty quickly because of the uniqueness of the position you're being put in, especially if you're implementing a version of Slate right now, which I am in year 2.5 of doing a decentralized version of Slate as well. And we're slowly getting into what I'm calling now the second version of our Slate implementation. Like the nuts and bolts were there, but now we need to optimize it for ourselves. And it's like having a whole new job all over again, which is why my hair is going less and less as I talk through it.
Ryan, and I mentioned to Laura in a private chat that she can email me. I think the best part about NAGAP is that you can pick. I know I don't have any experience with Slate. We use Salesforce and TargetX, but I've used Hobson's in the past. But if I don't have the answers, I certainly know some folks who've been using Slate, and I'm sure I speak for everybody on the membership committee or your chapter committee. Reach out to somebody in the chapter or on this committee, and we are glad to help. And I think that's the best part about NAGAP is, I mean, I can have 5 or 6 texts a day from colleagues just saying, "Hey, we're seeing this issue. Have you seen it before?" And that's been by far my greatest benefit.
Other questions from folks? Other things they might want to add in?
Actually, Ryan, I was going to ask another question. Again, with kind of moving into a new director of admissions role, I'm going to inherit a team of people. So how important do you think it is for me to push NAGAP and maybe either getting institutional memberships for them or setting them up with webinars? Like, is that something that everyone has found to be beneficial for the teams of people that they supervise? I will more than likely have one full-time international admissions advisor. I will have another person who's supposed to be 50% with me. And I think I will get a contract position that will be very entry level to help with a lot of the just mechanics of admission, document reception, reviews, answering general questions, things like that. How important do you think it is to get those folks involved in this organization as well?
So I'll answer and then I'll see if any other folks want to jump in too. So I inherited a team. I've been in my role for a year. There are three full-time staff. They all went to the NAGAP annual conference and became members the year before I got there from the previous person in my role. And they all said that was being involved in NAGAP was the like through line of a culminating experience they needed to better understand their jobs more than anything else that they got involved with so far, right? Not just knowing there's other people facing challenges or successes like they are in their roles, but also getting just an understanding of the landscape from the diversity of presentations at the conference to getting the chance to talk to some people and they're kind of, because we have a recruitment, a communications and an operations person. We kind of functionally divide up in our office. They felt as if there was now some cohesiveness and their roles made bigger sense in the broader landscape of why they're built the way they are. And NAGAP was a key piece to helping them do that. So the conference in itself was a linchpin, but the organization then kind of carried them through after that and feeling confident and comfortable and knowing where they could get resources, what they could do, you know, and what was going on there. So I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in and give their input, their feedback.
I could add into it. Hi, Laura, my name is Greg. I'm with the University of Florida. I'm the chair of the education committee at NAGAP. One thing I like about NAGAP is that there are people from all levels of GEM. I mean, there are certainly plenty of people who are deans of colleges and directors of enrollment management, people who are in similar role as you. I'm in a one-man shop. I'm one-on-one. I know every single student in my program, kind of a rare breed in the organization. Yet there are people like me too. And I think I get to see a lot of things that are bigger picture that I don't get to see where I am. And I think people who are bigger picture get to learn from people who are in the trenches. So I do think there's room for people at all levels within the organization. And what they're going to understand, some things are going to be spot on. They're going to understand. They're going to say, yes, I can implement this at my school. Other things are going to be more like, I get what national trends are. And I know I've been able to speak many times in meetings with my boss when I say, we're not alone in the struggle. This is something else that's going on, or this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm reading within my professional organization. So I think it's really great for folks all across the spectrum of where they're working in GEM.
Thanks, Greg. And I'm working out in California, but I'm an alum of UCF, so I'm a Florida girl. So I enjoy some sunshine for me and some warm weather.
It's nice and warm today. No offense to the people up north right now.
You know what? It was 17 when I put my one daughter on the bus this morning. Yeah, put your hands over your face, Greg. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. But the one piece to that I thought is interesting and important too is where was I going with this about NAGAP? I lost it. I'm gonna stop talking. It's okay. Anyone else? Any other questions anyone wanted to pose? Okay. If there aren't any others, I think we'll wrap up for today. I'm going to put my personal email in the chat in case anyone does have any questions as well. John, thanks for the comment. You know, I'm glad you said that too, in terms of getting involved. Christy mentioned one thing too, and I didn't want to get too far into it, but the strategic plan for NAGAP does have a lot of opportunity for expansion of chapters and interest groups. So that definitely is on the mind of National, because from a lot of folks' perspectives, we're seeing that kind of lower level regional, unit specific interest and engagement that's important to have. And so I think that's the future of this organization too, is both the broad perspectives and national trends, but also the individual personalized regional program or area specific engagement as well. So it's exciting to see how that's going to evolve in the future too. So thanks everyone. We appreciate your time. And if you aren't a member, we hope that you're thinking about joining. If you are, hopefully this gave you some building blocks and steps to start getting involved. So have a great afternoon, everyone. And thanks for joining. Take care.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye, everyone.